Welcome to the Ramblin' Man podcast, episode 18. This video or podcast, will have no video for this time around. It's been a while. So if you're just tuning in and you're a normal listener or someone who just stumbled upon my podcast, if you find what I talk about and whatever I'm babbling on about and you find it interesting and like it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on any streaming platforms, leave a rating, follow, give me some feedback. If you find value in what I'm talking about and, wrestling with my thoughts and, just talking about whatever, if you find value in it, if you feel obligated or you feel compelled, all I believe in is a value for value system. If you find value, then return value of whatever form or fashion you believe. It could be money, talent, whatever you want. You can give me topics or videos or whatever value you could provide back is ultimately what I find valuable for what I'm providing in return. So it's kind of just a mutual relationship. That way you're a part of the podcast as well. It's not really just me, it's those of you that are listeners and also that are in essence producers. So it has been a while, so let me just give a little bit of update on what's been going on. I started a new job, so it's been pretty crazy since I started. And things have just been, a little crazy. This is something that I think everybody can relate to. At one point, things are, normal. It's, what's the best way to put this? Predictable, or something that you're accustomed to. You have your routine. Then as things progress, changes often to your life or job or whatever bring often other changes as well. So I changed jobs. The pandemic and all that affected everybody, obviously, and I started a new job, and time is obviously a little bit different. I have not as much free time, and it just takes some adjusting to get used to. Not complaining. I have a good job. There's nothing to complain about. It's just, you normalize your new routine and then find, opportunities to do other things. I started a new job, and then we had our crazy winter storm down here in Texas. My house had some busted pipes. We're not living at home now. We had water throughout the whole house. So yeah, it's safe to say that really life got turned upside down quite a bit, and we just kept having unfortunate events happening. So that's why I've been absent. Nothing really crazy. It's just life. And those of you out there that listen, you may have relatable experiences that, sometimes life just likes to throw you a bunch of curveballs. But don't be disheartened. What I always lean on and that I really live by ultimately, you can only control what you can control, and there's some things that are outside of your control. And the only thing I could do is, focus on myself, what I can do, and adapting, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it feels overwhelming, but really the only thing we can do is focus on what I can do, my attitude, my response, and what steps I'm taking from there. Okay? So that's what's been going on with me. That's why I've been absent from any new podcast for a while. Actually, I'd recorded a podcast, but I really was not happy with what I had recorded. And then it had just been a while since I had sat down to record another podcast. It's not that I haven't wanted to. I've been wanting to. I've been meaning to. But, it's just finding time has been a little bit difficult. But I promise I will try to stay as consistent as possible with at least putting something out here and there. Even if it means there's no video, it's just going to be a little bit different. If you like the video, let me know. If you like having live video, when I start having guests, I will definitely try to make sure that I have video of that, just because I feel like it's a little bit better to have a visual. And those of you that listen, you probably don't even care. So just let me know, those of you that, listen on YouTube or wherever else, if you like video or if you go back to that at some point. What I wanted to talk about today is just a couple of things that I've been wrestling with, it's really hard for me unless I am talking to somebody to bounce, ideas off of or have a chat with and just have natural conversation and not go down this route. But, I find it hard to really not always, I don't want to say seem black-pilled, because it is kind of like I'm black-pilled, but I'm not black-pilled. I'm white-pilled. I believe that things will get better, but meaning I always go back to talking about, a little more serious things, or things that are always revolved around politics and stuff like that. But I just have I gravitate towards why people are the way they are, or why people think the things they think, or just sociology in general, like why, and what I've been grappling with myself lately has been just the idea that people really believed that a person, a human being, was going to be the one to save them. It's kind of what happened with QAnon. Humans just can't help but have this hero storyline. Even though it may not necessarily be a hero, they can't help but put their trust in another human being. And that's just a wrong mentality to have. If you want something, you have to do it yourself. If you want change, you have to be the change. And when it came to Trump in particular, a lot of people thought that Biden was just better because Trump is so bad. Yet when Biden gets into office, literally nothing has been different or changed. If anything, it's been back to the same old bullshit of pandering to war. And the reason why I bring this up is because people just can't help but think that people change or they're different or whatever. And the reason why I've been wrestling with this is because people are just too ignorant to understand history, or just the way that people or humans are. And I used to be very, I don't even know what I would categorize myself, because I don't even like the idea of parties. So it's just so stupid, because I think that everybody in general has certain things that they agree on and they don't. So a party is just stupid. I don't identify with any party. I believe some crazy things, and that's just that. I believe some things that are more widely, I like a lot of the, not that I think in application it's perfect or anything like that, but a lot of the founding principles of that America was founded on, I think, are universal and really stand the test of time. Even though in the context at the time, it may have not included certain groups of people, I think that the idea itself transcends that era, and even till today, there's the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, those things are super important. I think that ultimately, that is what's important, making sure that we have our freedoms and not getting our rights taken away. So with that being said, people are ignorant to history. There's something that happens when you give people power. They inevitably corrupt. And I've been wrestling with this in my mind because, I think to myself that maybe realistically, a large corporation or a government of our size is not supposed to happen. And I'm not saying this is the right answer. This is just my own thoughts that I wrestle with. I think to myself, maybe this isn't feasible, because I thought about it, because when you think about a company, it's very hard to scale a company to be large enough to have the quality control enough to not have a bunch of negative reviews. Meaning at some point you have a company. Let's use this example. You have a company. It's a local company. The owner of the company really cares about customer service and providing a good product, whatever it may be. That means that they might bust their ass and have a really, out of 5 stars, 4.8. Fantastic reviews. Everybody's recommending them. They're local. As that company continues to grow, there's going to be a point where the scaling no longer works. They're going to make so much money that at some point they lose that quality control where they really care about the experience of the customer, or people slip through the cracks, because the quality control just loses I don't know how to explain it. It loses it gets out of touch with the DNA of what the company used to be. And it's just scale. It's at some point, making everybody happy is not realistic. And everybody knows that. You can't make everybody happy. That's just in general. So with that thought process, it made me think, I think it's not meant to be that large. Nothing is meant to be that powerful. Nothing is meant to, because it's unrealistic. And the same thing with government. Maybe that's the problem, is we allowed government to have too much power to begin with. And people want to put their trust in government and people. They're just people. They're going to corrupt. It's just, in most cases, people just inevitably corrupt. It's just the way it goes. Look at history. It's nothing changed. It's something pathological in human beings. So why give them that power? And it just baffles me, because people want to keep rehashing it and make themselves believe, because they want to believe that someone is going to help them. And it's just something that I think to myself, I have instances where, the company, I just had an experience where it made me think about that. Realistically, that's the problem. It's just, we're at a point where the scale, it doesn't scale up enough. And it's just like anything else. Do you want to be proactive or reactive? Right? Being proactive in this situation would mean that we don't allow the opportunity for someone to take advantage, right? Don't allow government to have too much power. They would take advantage of the American people, or any government for that matter. Or we could be reactive, which I feel like is where we're at now. The government does what it wants, and we pay the price. The government doesn't fear its people, which I think is a problem because we're the ones that put them into power. Without us, they're nothing. So it's something that I wrestle with, and it makes me really think to myself, have we not learned anything through history, or are people just that ignorant to not learn about history? Which, of course, history is written by the victors, which means that ultimately history is not as accurate as it probably is, like it really is in reality, because, history is crazy. And I know that people don't care for it, but it's important to understand it. And to keep us from making the same mistakes. We want to be proactive, not reactive, or else we just keep making the same mistakes. And that's not a good place to be in. So it's just something that I wrestle with is, why do we need to always do that? Are we being manipulated to think that people are going to help us? I think at the end of the day, it's like we have to learn to take personal responsibility. I've talked about this before. It's like, why blame other people? Why put responsibility on other people? Because all you're going to do is set yourself up for disappointment, to be let down, right? So why not take the personal responsibility upon yourself? And like I've said plenty of times before, we like to minimize ourselves as a part in the universe, when in essence, we're just one person, but it's a domino effect. If you're doing your part to make a change, to, do things that are going to make an impact in the community, it spreads. It's just the way it works. It's like you start small, and then 1% every day makes a difference collectively over time. So it's just something that I've been thinking about, is like maybe, I don't know. I don't have the answers. This is just, like I said, I'm just rambling on here. This is just something that I, thought about. I've been thinking about, I like trying to think of solutions. I'm just a regular dude, just putting a podcast out there. But, I don't think more is better. This is just something that I've learned with training for 8 years in CrossFit and, in fitness in general. There's this idea that if you just do more, it's better. You're going to get better faster, or you're going to, get to the destination you want sooner. But that's not necessarily true. The principle I learned through my whole training and everything like that when it came to fitness, and I think it transcends fitness. It's just in life. Simple is often better, right? Keep it stupid simple. Because when you start overcomplicating things, when you start trying to overload things, then you're taking away from some of the effectiveness. Now, it's a dichotomy though, because sometimes you can go too simple, right? Or you can be too complex. I lean a little not too much, but I lean a little more on the simple side. But you can mix it up a little bit. But just because more government isn't better, it's just not. It's not. And I think that applies everywhere else. More is not always better. You have to look at this rationally and think about realistically, is this in the best interest of the people? I have always been not trusting of the government. Yet there's a lot of people that do trust the government, which doesn't make sense to me. The government has never proven to act in the interest of the people, be fiscally responsible, or represent the people. They never have. Maybe not never have, but at least in the past easily 60 years, they have not been a representation of either of those any of those things. So, why would you trust them? Why would you be easily give up more power to them? It makes no sense. Now, I say all this, and I am not ignorant to the fact that it's not that simple. I am one of those people that understands, and I always think this way, is that I wish it was that simple. I wish it was like, we just take away some power from the government, we're good to go, or anything like that. But it's not that simple, and that's just life in general. I wish it's almost a contradiction to what I just said. Simple is often effective. I use that saying as a rule of thumb when it comes to applying like different principles or methods or whatever. But what I mean by the other side of that is that not everything is as simple as it seems, right? And I just use this example as like, because it's a hot topic. Let's use like race. Race is not something that's as simple as people are racist. White people are racist. And they hate black people and they hate Asians. And if you look at mainstream media, you'd be quick to believe that. But the reality of the matter is, when it comes to race, it's a super complex and intricate topic. And nobody wants to admit that. You know, I've listened to podcasts where they have conversations about it. And at the end of the conversation, they're like, we haven't gotten anywhere. We're just starting to scratch the surface about race. And it is because there's so many variables at play. And I read about it. I listen to stuff about it. And I understand that there's so many things. And it's the same thing with government. It's the same thing with most cases in life in general. It's not that simple. It's not a simple, well, white people are racist. Not necessarily. And I give an example of this, and this is like one of the last things I'll touch on before we lighten it up a little bit here, is, do I think that there's rampant racism? I think there's people that are racist, 100%. Just because there's always going to be racism. That's why there's racism on every single country in the entire world. Because human beings, just like we just talked about earlier, there's some things that humans just do, and they tend to point out differences because they want to identify with the tribe. Tribalism is just something humans do. Therefore, in every country, there's problems with race. The fair-skinned people are treated differently. The darker-skinned people are treated differently. Is it fair? No. I think it's retarded. Because at the end of the day, we all bleed red. So what does it fucking matter? Besides the point, racism will always be a factor. Until the whole human race is of the same shade of color, therefore we're all mixed and we all look the same kind of color, it's always going to be around. And even then, it's going to turn from racism to classism, even though classism's never going anywhere either. But I think in this day and age, a lot of people say racism is alive and well, stronger than ever. I don't agree with that. I think one of the variables to that is you have ignorant people that don't understand, that get pushed into racism, believing a lie. The example I use for this is the famous recruiting tactic the KKK used. You have a bunch of white Americans in the Midwest or wherever, in the South, in the factories, that get laid off. They get replaced by cheap labor. This cheap labor happened to be people of color. Black or Hispanic, doesn't really freaking matter. Then you have these people, these leaders from the KKK. They're not stupid. They're smart. They get these people to be on board with their message by convincing them that these people of color are the reason why they lost their job. X, Y, and Z fill in the blank with all the horrific, harsh stuff they have to say about them. They blame them. When at the end of the day, the reason why they lost their job wasn't because of the people of color, was because of the greedy corporate entities that own the company wanted cheap labor. Therefore, you have people that are ignorant, who don't understand, who suddenly get twisted and led to believe one thing that's not true. And because they don't know better, or they don't understand, or they're ignorant, whatever, they now are racist even if they don't really believe it themselves. And they get caught in the lie. And that's one example. That's one variable of multiple variables in the case of racism. Now, are people racist? Yes, of course. But race isn't exclusively white versus black. There's black people that are racist against white people. There's Asians that are racist against black people. Racism is not exclusive to any particular race. It doesn't matter. Racism doesn't discriminate. Meaning, you could be racist of any race, against any race. So, that leads into my point. Racism is not as simple as it seems. So if people want to be honest, honesty says it's a many-faceted problem to fix or dive into. And that's just the honest truth. So, with that being said, what we talked about, it's not that simple. I wish it was. But I think that's what makes life interesting. Because what a time to be alive. Make sure you buy GameStop. Make sure you hold. This is not financial advice. So if you're holding it, you better hold it. But, yeah, we're going to keep it a little bit short today. Yeah, if you have any topics that you want to hear about, you see anything interesting, value for value system, throw it my way. Send me an email, send me a message. Doesn't matter where. Let me know what you think about what we talked about. What do you think? What do you think about government? What do you think about the power structures that there are? What do you think about corporations? Do you think that it's able to scale? You know, I want to know what you guys think. You, the listener, what do you think? I want some feedback here. You know, do you think people can be different than before? Do you think that there's people that are able to not corrupt? You know, I just want to know what you guys think. Subscribe, like, comment. Make sure you follow the podcast. Leave a rating. Like I said, value for value. Even if the value is you just sharing the podcast with your friends and family, I would greatly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I just do this because I like to talk and I like to share my thoughts, and I hope that you enjoy the podcast. Until next time, guys, thank you so much.